Hi there, Miss Malik, the lit librarian from Garden City High School in Garden City, Kansas. The book that I'm featuring is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. And the reason why I'm picking this book, there's a couple reasons. One, I always get asked for funny books, and funny books are really hard to come by. This book is funny. Oh yes, I'm also holding up a PDF form. I just printed out the first chapter because this book is currently checked out in my library. The second reason is basically because Banned Book Week is coming up September 22nd through the 28th. And I like to say that I am a protector of intellectual freedom, and I definitely promote the fact of keeping the light on and, against censorship. And so the controversy that stems around this book, I wrote down a few notes, is the discussion of alcohol, poverty, bullying, violence, sexuality, profanity, and slurs related to homosexuality and mental disability. It was written in 2007. It's been at the top charts for most challenged and banned books in a lot of places. And I sometimes seem to find out, though, when they are challenged and banned, kids want them more. All right, so we need to, if parents are really trying to ban something, they need to do some more reverse psychology and just promote the book, and then they won't want it anymore. Okay, we have a main character. His name is Arnold Spirit Jr., who goes by Junior. And he lives on the Spokane Indian Reservation and leaves the res to attend an all-white high school. Again, that's just a synopsis, very, very short, not as super detailed, but this first chapter is a lot of fun to read, a great narrative. Also, too, if you do forensics or things like that, a great cut piece, which I'm sure it's been done before, but I love this book. First chapter. The Black Eye of the Month Club. I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so that's not exactly true. I was actually born with too much cerebral spinal fluid inside my skull. But cerebral spinal fluid is just the doctor's fancy way of saying brain grease. And brain grease works inside the lobes like car grease works inside an engine. It keeps things running smooth and fast, but weirdo me, I was born with too much grease inside my skull, and it was all thick and muddy and disgusting, and it only mucked up the works. My thinking and breathing and living engine slowed down the flooded. My brain was drowning in grease, but that makes the whole thing sound weirdo and funny, like my brain was a giant French fry. So it seems more serious and poetic and accurate to say I was born with water on the brain. Okay, so maybe that's not a very serious way to say it either. Maybe the whole thing is weird and funny, but geez, did my mother and father and big sister and grandma and cousins and aunts and uncles think it was funny when the doctors cut open my little skull and sucked out all that extra water with some tiny vacuum? I was only 6 months old and I was supposed to croak during the surgery, and even if I somehow survived the mini Hoover, I was supposed to suffer serious brain damage during the procedure and live the rest of my life as a vegetable. Well, I obviously survived the surgery. I wouldn't be writing this if I didn't, but I have all sorts of physical problems that are directly the result of my brain damage. First of all, I ended up having 42 teeth. The typical human has 32, right? But I had 42, 10 more than usual, 10 more than normal, 10 teeth past human. My teeth got so crowded that I could barely close my mouth and went to Indian Health Service to get some teeth pulled so I could eat normally, not like a slobbering vulture. But the Indian Health Service funded major dental work only once a year, so I had to have all 10 extra teeth pulled in one day. And what's more, our white dentist believed that Indians only felt half as much pain as white people did, so he only gave us half the Novocaine. Indian Health Service also funded eyeglass purchases only once a year and offered one style, those ugly, thick, black plastic ones. My brain damage left my nearsighted in one eye and farsighted in the other, so my ugly glasses were all lopsided because my eyes were so lopsided. I get headaches because my eyes are like enemies, like they used to be married to each other, but now hate each other's guts. And I started wearing glasses where I was 3, so I ran around the res looking like a 3-year-old Indian grandpa. And oh, I was skinny. I turned sideways and I disappear. But my hands and my feet were large. My feet were a size 11 in 3rd grade. With a big feet and pencil body, I looked like a capital L walking down the road. And my skull was enormous, epic. My head was so big that little Indian skulls orbited around me. Some of the kids called me Orbit, and other kids just called me Globe. The bullies would pick me up, spin me in circles, put their finger down on my skull and say, I want to go there. So obviously it looked goofy on the outside, but it was the inside stuff that was the worst. First of all, I had seizures, at least 2 a week, so I was damaging my brain on a regular basis. But the thing is, I was having those seizures because I already had brain damage. So I was reopening wounds each time I seized. Yep, whenever I had a seizure, I was damaging my damage. I haven't had a seizure in 7 years, but the doctors tell me that I'm susceptible to seizure activity. Susceptible to seizure activity. Doesn't that just roll off the tongue like poetry? I also had a stutter and a lisp, or maybe I should say I had a stutter and a lisp. You wouldn't think there's anything life-threatening about speech impediments, but let me tell you, there's nothing more dangerous than being a kid with a stutter and a lisp. A 5-year-old is cute when he lisps and stutters. Heck, most of the big-time kid actors stuttered and lisped their way to stardom. And geez, you're still fairly cute when you're stuttering and lisping 6, 7, and 8 years old, but it's all over when you turn 9 and 10. After that, your stutter and lisp turns you into a retard. And if you're 14 years old, like me, and you're still stuttering and lisping, then you become the biggest retard in the world. Everybody on the res calls me a retard about twice a day. They call me retard when they're pantsing me, or stuffing my head in the toilet, or just smacking me upside the head. I'm not even writing down this story the way I actually talk, because I have to fill it with stutters and lisps, and then you'd be wondering, why are you reading such a story written by such a retard? Do you know what happens to retards on the res? We get beat up, at least once. Yep, I belong to the Black Eye of the Month Club. Sure, I want to go outside. Every kid wants to go outside, but it's safer to stay at home. So I mostly hang out alone in my bedroom and read books and draw cartoons. Here's one of me, which I love. I love the artwork in here. I draw all the time. I draw cartoons of my mother and father, my sister and grandmother, my best friend, Rowdy, and everybody else on the res. I draw because words are too unpredictable. I draw because words are limited. If you speak and write English or Spanish or Chinese or any other language, then only a certain percentage of human beings will get your meaning. But when you draw a picture, everybody can understand it. If I draw a cartoon of a flower, then every man, woman, and child in the world can look at it and say, that's a flower. So I draw because I want to talk to the world. I want the world to pay attention to me. I feel important with a pen in my hand. I feel like I might grow up to be somebody important, an artist, maybe a famous artist, maybe a rich artist. That's the only way I can become rich and famous. Just take a look at the world. Almost all the rich and famous brown people are artists. They're singers and actors and writers and dancers and directors and poets. So I draw because I feel like it might be my only real chance to escape the reservations. I think the world is a series of broken dams and floods, and my cartoons are tiny little lifeboats. There's the other one. All right. Miss Malik, the Lit Librarian, first chapter Fridays. See ya.